Welcome back to American Warrior Radio, right here on AM 1300 WMEL, sponsored by AVET Project. Glenn, we're having a lively discussion here about healthcare enrollment and all these guys and gals out there that maybe have never engaged their benefits with the VA healthcare side before. We covered categories 8 and 7 as we work up the list. How many? There's 8 total categories.
That's correct.
So we got a few more, and they get a little easier to identify.
Well, easier to understand if nothing else, and easier to explain. So we'll move right on to the next one, and that's enrollment priority group 6. And I don't think there's any more World War I or Mexican border war veterans around. So
probably not.
This is either veterans who are getting money from the VA payment each month, and that can be people with multiple zeros, which is pretty confusing, but it happens.
It's a multiple non-compensable where they're going to get a dime, 10%.
That's right. Or veterans solely seeking care for disorders associated with exposure to Agent Orange, exposure to ionizing radiation in the many places that could have occurred, for any illness, possibly participation in that would be cause for participation in Project Shad, which was a shipboard defense system, is what that kind of stands for, and they were testing whether they could withstand bombardment by nuclear radiation and other chemical and biological agents. So
those lucky fellas, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, fortunately there was not too many of them involved in that.
But talk about being a guinea pig.
Oh well, that's the Webster Dictionary definition of that.
No
unfortunately.
Kidding. So they're in category 6.
Yep, they're in category 6, and then finally in category 6 is those veterans who have any illness associated with service in combat. Remember we talked about that earlier. In a war after the Gulf War, which was, Gulf War was before Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom and New Dawn, or during a period of hostility after November 11th, 1998. So this is where all the combat veterans are put. And then
in category 6 automatically.
Category 6 automatically for 5 years. Then at the end of 5 years, depending on what their circumstances are, whether they have service-connected disabilities and what % they are, and those kind of considerations, they'll be placed into the category where that may change their co-payment status, and where they weren't paying co-pay before, they might end up paying co-pay at that point in time. But they're guaranteed 5 years of VA health care, regardless of what their income is, regardless of what their net worth is.
Based on their exposure to combat.
That's correct.
Okay, that's important.
Absolutely. So that's priority group 6. Then priority group 5, and by the way, just let me slip back to 6 real quick. Let's take the Vietnam veterans category. They're pretty liberal in determining who falls into that category. So that's why I said you got to go and then try and enroll and let the VA determine if you're eligible or not. And then we move up to priority group 5. That's non-service connected veterans and those with 0% that aren't getting any money, whose annual income or net worth is below that 36.5 that I gave you before. And for a married couple.
Right, with a child. So that's the income threshold, the poverty threshold, or how are they determining that?
Well, yeah, that's they determine that based on some kind of formula related to the VA pension program, but it's not the same figures as the VA pension program. And it's just, it's like I tell them, it's just what it is. It's those figures.
Yeah, you can't argue with it. When they come out with these, this is what it is. You have to either fall within it or you don't.
Yeah, and then, or specifically those veterans receiving pension benefits are in category 5.
Now we're talking non-service connected pension benefits.
That's right. And that's for low-income veterans who have at least 1 day of their active duty during a period of war. And that's subject for a whole nother day's business to talk about that program. And we'll do that from time to time. because there's a lot of people using that program to stay in assisted living facilities in their later years.
So if you're under the age of 65 and you're drawing a non-service connected pension because you're totally and permanently disabled, you fall into this group. If you're over the age of 65, that permanent and total label doesn't even matter.
That's right. And then the final group that's eligible for Priority Group 5 are veterans eligible, not necessarily on, but eligible for Medicaid benefits. That's basically you have net worth of less than $2,000 and very low income. It's even lower than the VA pension limits, and that changes every year, and why they've ever tied it in with that, I have no idea. But it's another way to become eligible, so that's a good thing from that perspective. Then we move on up to Priority Group 4, and that's veterans who are receiving aid and attendance or housebound benefits. Be not confused here. They're not talking about you're getting aid and attendance or housebound benefits for a service-connected disability. They're talking about the VA pension program, which pays more money if your health is such that you are housebound or need even more care, aid and attendance of another person on a daily basis.
Higher level of care.
Higher level of care, and you're normally those kind of people are in an assisted living facility already, and or veterans who have been determined by the VA to be catastrophically disabled. So remember some of those if, and, or buts I told you earlier. Don't try and self-disqualify yourself just because of the income criteria and the fact that you don't have any service-connected disabilities. A very good friend of mine would flunk the income category, but he's legally blind, and he enrolled in the VA clinic at my urging, and he's in the VA Blind Services Program, and he gets all kinds of equipment and service at home. People come by and check on him after his wife passed away. It's a wonderful program. It's called VIST-A, the VA Blind Services Program, and the things you can get there to help you manage your life even while legally blind are phenomenal, and they cost nothing. So that's people that are catastrophically disabled. I mean, there's other serious problems that people have that will put you in that category, and that's for the VA to determine. How do they determine? You apply and try.
Mm-hmm. That's important. Got to do that. Step number 1.
You betcha. And then Enrollment Priority Group 2, those are veterans who are former prisoners of war.
So you're on 3 now. Priority Group 3.
Yeah. I can't read. Help. Yes, veterans who are former prisoners of war, veterans awarded the Purple Heart, veterans whose discharge was for a disability that was incurred or aggravated in the line of duty. So you were discharged for a disability. In other words, you couldn't finish your enlistment, and they put you out for medical reasons. Veterans with service-connected disabilities rated now 10 or 20%, so we're out of that 0% category. And then veterans who were awarded special eligibility classification under Section 1151. That's a big mouthful to say. If the VA made you worse by providing medical care that was unintentional, that's a possibility that an 1151 claim could be approved, and that's treating you like as if you were service-connected.
You are not service-connected, but you're receiving benefits as if you were.
Yeah, and some of the ancillary benefits don't go along with that. So
exactly. Very, very fine lines there, but it's basically the answer to a tort claim on the outside, an 1151 claim.
Good analogy there. Good analogy.
Right. You kind of think of it like malpractice is often the application that's relevant to an 1151. So those folks are in category 3.
And it's gotten 10 times tougher to get those from the VA than it used to be when I started over 20 years ago. Enrollment Group Priority 2, veterans with service-connected disabilities rated 30 or 40. And then Enrollment Group Priority 1, and that's veterans rated 50% or greater. And I will tell you, 50% or greater, you don't pay a copay for anything, even if you're being treated for a cold, and that's not what you're service-connected for, including your medications. Then you marry all these enrollment categories up with do you or don't you pay copays, and depending on what category you're in will determine what kind of copays you pay. You will never pay a copay for a treatment for a service-connected disability or medication for a service-connected disability. And from there, it depends, unless you're in priority group 1, it depends on what kind of treatment you're getting, what you're service-connected for, and so forth.
So it's important to take your DD-214. If you're Guard or Reserve, you've been issued one, not your 2214 for national service here for a hurricane or something like that, but if you've been federalized and called up, you have a DD-214. All you active duty folks that have either completed your tour, or you've been discharged, or you've been retired, get into the VA with your DD-214, go up to the enrollment desk and say, I'm here, I'd like to apply for health care benefits. Let them make that determination. It's a simple form, a 1010 EZ, and they label it that for a reason. It is fairly quick to fill out. That's super important. We've got some other things we want to talk about, but before we do, I have to mention a couple things. AVET project, thanks to the fine folks at Kel-Tec. This is an American firearms manufacturer right here in Cocoa, Florida. Makes their firearms out of American parts, made by Americans. It's a lifetime warranty. They have, again, provided AVET project a beautiful weapon, a KSG shotgun, that we're raffling off to support our programs and services. Tickets are only $10.
All right.
This is a shotgun that is the hottest property out there. People they can't even keep up with the demand right now. $10. Click on avetproject.org and look at the donate button, select donate, make a comment there that you'd like a ticket for KSG for $10. Maybe you want 10 of them. Just click away. We need to get this bad boy sold. We're going to be raffling it off during the Victory Cruise Line affair we're going to have in July. We'll get back to that in a moment. But we also have an Android tablet that we're looking to raffle off through the American Legion Post 163. Just $5 for tickets for that. So it's a heck of a good deal. And folks, I want to remind you that we've got all kinds of folks still in theater in Afghanistan fighting to keep this country free so those wars stay over there and not here on the homeland. We have EEBs, our care package program. We still have 200 of them that we've got to ship to the troops. They deserve this. They need this. This is care and convenience items, all the things that they look for, snacks, things like that. And we teach them how to journal. There's good information about stress mediation. When they receive these, it's like Christmas morning. Help us get these over to the troops. It's just $13.45 to ship one of them. So if you can make a donation, go to avetproject.org, click on the donate button, and give our troops in theater a little hello, some love from back home. I want to mention that we are, AVET Project and a bunch of folks are supporting the 920th Rescue Wings Family and Employer Appreciation Days today, June 2nd. We're going to be busy all day, but it's a great event, and we've even got a C-5 that is landing at Patrick Air Force Base with a bunch of guys and gals coming back from that deployment. I want to thank so many people, but the Military Affairs Council of Cocoa Beach Chamber, Top 3, CivMil, Brian Jaskowitz with easy for me to say, Jaskowitz with SCIS. He's been a great help. We've got several American Legion posts from 81 to 200. The River Rats, Florida Beer, BJ's, the Vietnam and All Veterans of Brevard, and of course DJ Gene Marine is bringing out his rocket ship float with karaoke, and it's just going to be a blast. We want to thank everybody that's supporting this because we couldn't do it without you all. And Monday's Mona Lisa is going to perform for the guys and gals. This is a great group of young people that are doing wonderful things for our troops. They're going to be there at the event today at Patrick Air Force Base. So folks, I want to mention also that if you are looking to help, you can just click on avetproject.org and volunteer. As always, we appreciate you joining us here on American Warrior Radio. We'll see you next week. But Glenn,
don't forget, think of that.